Nothing contained in this podcast should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. This content does not represent our respective employers and is purely the opinion of the podcast hosts. We are not your personal medical providers. Sorry, friends. So, if you have concerns or are seeking a diagnosis or treatment, please seek individual advice from a healthcare provider in your area. We are not liable for any risks associated with acting upon the information contained in this podcast. This is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, so enjoy the ride.
Please drink responsibly and in moderation. Before drinking, please be sure to be of the legal drinking age for your country. We do not encourage the misuse of alcohol.
Welcome to Medical Media Mixer, the perfect cocktail. I'm Nicole Peniston, psychologist.
And I'm Tara Prisco, physician assistant. All right. Happy birthday, Nicole.
Yay! It's my birthday episode, even though my birthday is over a month away today. That's
I know. We're very ahead of the game. This is episode 48.
Insanity.
We only have 3 more to record for the year because we already have the last one done. So
crazy.
That's insanity. Yes. We are making it a full year when we didn't know what we were doing. We still don't really know what we're doing, but
we know exactly that we don't know what we're doing. That's what we know.
But it's pretty amazing.
It is. It's pretty cool.
Know.
It's been a bit of a journey. We'll have to do a recap episode for it's the first one for next year.
Yeah, something along those lines, or throw something on Patreon. We gotta come up with a plan.
Yes, we need to do some more Patreon vids, some more last calls.
Yeah.
Because we didn't do one for Comic-Con, so we'll have to do a recap of that.
All right. So that's good. I've been doing 2 a month now. I kind of change it to that because that's about what we've been recording. So we'll need November and December.
Yeah. So we've got at least one.
Yeah.
So in the book so far.
Yeah.
So anything on your mind you wanted to chat about before we get started?
No, husband's dealing with child and homework. Yay
Fun
for him.
What kind of homework?
Book club. You have to read 2 chapters, and then there's 2 slides. You have to type in questions about what you think is happening or something in the book, and it's every 2 days. Basically, you have to do this twice a week. So we're plugging along.
Yeah. Are they reading anything good?
It's something they were given. It was some book I never heard of, but we were why don't you have the computer open with the slides, and then when you come up with a question in the book, you just do it right then.
In there.
But no, we had to read all the chapters. No. Then we had to sit down and be tortured to fill this in.
Yeah, no one would do that.
We'll get there. We'll learn the shortcuts eventually.
Yes, we will.
But I'm up here, so I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. You got to opt out of that for today.
I did. So we know that when this episode comes out, will you be on your birthday trip, or is it falling over your actual birthday?
No, I leave on that Wednesday. So I'll be at work on my birthday on that day, which will be fine.
But preparing and being ready to go.
Yes, it'll be good. It'll be fine. Although I am starting to book out to then, so I do have stuff on my calendar already. So,
oh my goodness,
yeah,
life is busy.
It's busy, but it's a good busy. So can't complain too much about that.
Exactly. I like it. In 10 days, I'll be in Costa Rica, so that'll be nice.
Jealous?
I want to see sloths and monkeys. Basically, that's the plan. Sloths, monkeys, waterfalls.
Are you going to go to the butterfly farm?
Possibly. We were looking, there's tons of different excursions of combos. Ooh, I'm hitting things. I'm getting too excited about butterflies, of different things. But we might kind of wait. They're still all available. So we might kind of wait till we get there and then decide what day we want to do what. Because we don't overbook ourselves. And, if we feel I don't know. So we're still up in the air, but sloths are definitely a must. So that was on my list, and my children like sloths. So I need pictures of sloths.
Well, are you going to get to touch a sloth?
I don't know yet. There's different excursions. Some of them are at a sanctuary where I think you get to touch them, and some of them where you're just seeing them in the wild. So
yeah,
it depends on which one we end up booking.
I would imagine there's probably not that much difference when we're thinking sloths.
Yeah. I don't really need to pet one.
Yeah.
They're good.
I mean, if you tried, it's not like they're going to run away.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. They got some big claws. They might claw your face
True.
off.
That's true. I'm sure they have some sort of protective mechanism.
Yeah. They look cute though. Have you seen those things? They're like these weighted stuffed animal things. It must be in my algorithm on social media. I keep seeing advertisements for them, and you can like put them on you, and they have like a sloth, they have like a Highland cow, they have all these things you can put on your back or put on your chest, and it's just like a weighted stuffed animal to make you feel calm.
That sounds like, I mean, I have one. It's not like you don't wear it. It just sits on your lap, but mine's a little French bulldog.
Oh, that's so cute.
He's cute. Yeah.
All right, Nicole, I know you have some crazy stuff for us today.
I have so many things to talk about that I just stopped putting links in the doc because there's too many things. So I'll throw some stuff out there, and then if I need to find a link, we'll add it in later.
Okay.
But let me first start off by talking about my cocktail, which is courtesy of tipsynerdbookclub.com.
Oh, there you go.
Which I feel like, why have we not been visiting this site?
Right, that's us.
Before that.
I need to check that out.
So mine is from Tipsy Nerd Cocktails Season 2. So they have apparently different seasons. And it is called the Clone Club Martini. So Clone Club Martini, this is what it looks like. It's black, and I added black glitter, but you can't really tell, but it's in there, and it's magical. So to make a Clone Club Martini, it is 2 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce blue curacao, and a ½ ounce of black raspberry liqueur like Chambord. You shake all of that in a cocktail shaker filled with ice, strain into a chilled glass, garnish with a lemon twist if you have it. I did not have one. And then you can add either a few drops of black food coloring, which I added to make my drink black, or you can add 2 drops of blue, 2 drops of red, 1 drop of green to make it look black.
So this is kind of funny, but food coloring and certain things can come out the other direction looking like things.
Exactly.
Just be prepared. One time, one of my kids ate all these really hot pink cupcakes at some birthday party. It came out red the other end in the diaper, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?"
Scary? Yeah, yeah. I get that. I'm prepared for that. So today I'm going to talk about one of my all-time favorite shows ever called Orphan Black. Mm-hmm. So Orphan Black is no longer running, at least not the version of it that I'm going to talk about. So it was a Canadian sci-fi thriller television series created by Graham Mason and John Fawcett, and it starred Tatiana Maslany. And so this series ran originally on BBC America, and then I believe at some point Netflix bought it because now all the seasons are on Netflix. And when you watch it on Netflix, it says like Netflix presents versus like the original. So there's some sort of partnership ownership going on there. And so the plot in general, because I'm going to get much more deeper into it in a minute when I start talking about stuff, is the series starts out following a young woman named Sarah Manning. And what you learn very quickly about her, she's kind of a hot mess. You know, you figure out that she is coming back into town to see her young daughter for the first time in quite some time, probably at least over a year. And it's alluded to that, you know, she was doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong guys, you know, kind of not a good mother figure for her child. And so she left her child with her foster mother, so her grandmother. And so she's coming back to town to see her daughter, Kira, and kind of wants to, you know, try again to be a mom, try again to start over, to connect with her family. So she's coming into town, and it doesn't say exactly how far she's traveled, but like she's on a train and she's like falling asleep, and she looks kind of haggard. So you can tell it's been a long journey from wherever she's coming from. And this takes place in Canada, as I was saying. So she gets off the train at a stop, and she's waiting for the next train, and it's middle of the night, so there's not really anybody around. And as she's waiting for the next train, she's kind of looking around, and she sees this woman walk by her, and then she sees the woman take her shoes off and set her purse down and take her coat off and lay it down, and she sees the woman walk towards an oncoming train. And she's kind of like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? And she like calls out, and the woman looks at her and looks identical to her. Mm-hmm. They are identical twins. And so this woman, who we later find out is Beth, jumps in front of the train and kills herself. And so as shocked as Sarah is to see all of this, Sarah, you can tell, is a little bit of a swindler. She plays the game. So her immediate thought, as the police are rushing, stopping the train, trying to figure out what's going on, she does try to go look and like see what happened to the woman, but they push her back. So she's kind of shocked, and she looks around and she sees this woman's stuff on the ground. So she just grabs her purse and keeps walking, and essentially steals her identity. But what we come to find out is that Beth, who looks exactly like Sarah, is a police detective. So now Sarah's got herself in a bit of a jam when now she has to start answering Beth's phone, and then she has to go into Beth's work, and she finds out that Beth was having a lot of difficulty at work. She'd been suspended for shooting a civilian. And so the drama ensues from there on out. What we come to find out by the end of the first episode is that not only are Sarah and Beth identical, there are others who look exactly like them. And we come to find out that they are genetic clones of each other. So that's how the first episode goes. And it's really, really well done. I mean, I got hooked immediately. I remember seeing the commercial before it even started. I was like, I need to watch this fucking show. And I was in when it was like live on air every week. For years, I watched that show, and it was so good. And I got people hooked on it. I got Kim, our friend, hooked on it. She's obsessed. And so it's the show follows these different clones. So the main clones are Beth, who is past, Sarah. Then there is Allison, who's like a soccer mom. Then there is Helena, who is a wild card. She's very aggressive. She's very unusual. She really doesn't get along well with everyone. She's trouble. Helena is trouble. And then there is Cosima, who is strangely enough, a genetic scientist. So they are the main clones. I'm looking at the book because I have the DNA of Orphan Black, which is essentially like a primer dictionary of every character, every season, the entire plot.
That's nice.
So I may need to reference this a few times because it gets really hairy.
Right, with all of these clones.
Yes. And I will say, if you have not watched the show, not for just the plot, Tatiana Maslany is such a phenomenal actress that you forget it's the same person playing all of these characters.
Right.
And there are times during the series where she is playing one clone pretending to be another clone, and you know it immediately. Yeah. You're like, that's Sarah pretending to be Cosima, or, that's Allison pretending to be, and it's like, how...
That's amazing.
It's mind-boggling. She's a phenomenal actress. I do believe she was nominated, but I don't think she won awards. She's been in a lot of other stuff since, though, and she's just an amazing actress all around. But in total, they find out, I don't know if I put it in my notes, by the end of the show, which is quite a roller coaster, we find out that there's something like several hundred clones. We don't get to meet all of them.
Right,
so
overwhelming.
during all of the episodes, but we meet quite a few. I think by the end of the last season, we've met or learned about at least 25 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So Tatiana Maslany was earning her paycheck doing this show. So a lot of really cool stuff comes up in the show other than just, hey, clones, what the fuck?
Right.
And it's definitely a what the fuck it many times. So I'm going to kind of throw out some terms there and kind of see what you know about them biologically, medically, and then what we can kind of talk about a little bit more. I had notes somewhere. I cannot find them, so I'm going off the top of my head. Luckily, I've watched this entire show front to back at least 3 times, so I'm pretty well versed in it. I was telling Tara before, I have a Clone Club t-shirt. So the first rule of Clone Club is you don't talk about Clone Club.
That's Fight Club, people.
It's the same. Because if they let people know that they're clones, then there's going to be issues.
Right.
So let me see if I can find my other notes, because I had specific talking points and I don't know where they are. So hold on 1 sec. Hold, please. Am
I going to do tequila? Is this like Pee Wee Herman?
Kind of. Why can't I find it? Okay, I can't find it. It's
Even
fine.
if you can't find it, we can.
I know the show, so I'll talk about it. Yeah. So some of the other main characters in the show. So there is Felix Dawkins, who is Sarah's foster brother, and he is a clone ally from the start. He becomes very close friends with Allison. He kind of looks after Helena. He is friends with Cosima, so he kind of gets himself ingratiated with them. Then there is Paul Dearden, who we don't know this at the beginning, but we eventually find out that he is Beth's monitor. So what we come to find out is that these clones were developed by a government project. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the project was split where the female clones, which are called the Leda clones, are more privately managed by a corporation. And then the male clones are owned and operated by the government, by the...
They're making an army, like the Clone Wars?
Essentially,
like Star Wars?
Essentially. Yeah. But the problem is that the male clones have a lot of neurological issues and eventually start passing away from that. Mm-hmm. And then we come to find out through the course of the show that the female clones have a lot of gynecological issues, which they're then passing away from that as well. Okay. So we learn pretty quickly that cloning is not a good idea.
I mean, have you met Dolly, the sheep?
So it's funny. They do reference Dolly throughout the show. There is a clone who comes in late last season named Mika, and she always wears a sheep mask and talks about Dolly a lot, which if folks don't know, Dolly, it was a real sheep who was cloned essentially in these cloning projects. Other characters in the show, Art is Beth's police partner. He does at some point allude to being romantically inclined with Beth, but we know Beth dies, so nothing comes of that. And then one of my favorite characters is played by Maria Doyle Kennedy, who I'm sure you know because she's been in a lot of stuff. And I know you like a lot of like Irish, British shows. She's done a lot of work in that. And she plays Mrs. S, or Siobhan. And Siobhan is the foster mother. Mm-hmm. But we do come to find out later that Siobhan is technically the daughter of the original clone.
Wait, what?
Exactly. I know.
My brain is hurting.
I know. There's so much. So Siobhan's mother, who I forget her name, so let me look it up in here. Siobhan's mother is a human chimera. So do you want to speak about what a human chimera is?
I know that you can have, I'm not very well versed in this, but you can essentially have different cell lines within your body. So like, you know, the left side of your abdomen could have cells of one cell line genetically, and the rest of your body could have something else. You can have just any part of your body, essentially, that can happen too. It could be split down the middle. It could be, you ever see the cat chimeras? They're really cute.
Yeah, where they're like half their face is like tabby with blue eyes, and the other half is like black and white.
Exactly. Yeah. So essentially, it's just having a group of cells that are completely different genetics than the rest. I mean, it would still come from your parents, but it would just be a different combination.
This is a trick question. Do you know how chimeraism occurs in humans? Or why is a better way? There's one very common way that it happens.
I don't know. You were supposed to split off into twins and you didn't?
No, but then one is absorbed by the other. Like one fails to thrive and then it's absorbed. So that's essentially what happens with the... Why can't I find her name? It's going to drive me insane.
We could talk a little bit how Siobhan is not spelled how you think it's spelled.
Yes,
Irish
it's Siobhan. But
those Irish names get you. I'm like, yes. What? Who? What words are these?
Why don't I have what her name is? Oh, it's going to drive me insane. Anyway, so as I said, the female clones are the Leda clones. The male clones, which I'll get to in a minute, are the Castor clones. Do you know the Greek mythology of Leda and Castor?
I don't think that's what I know. I don't recall. So
Leda and Castor were identical twins from different fathers. So Zeus came down and had, if I'm remembering this correctly, because I haven't looked at my Greek mythology, I believe Clytemnestra is their mother.
Okay.
Clytemnestra is the sister of Helen of Troy.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
I know a lot about Greek mythology. So Clytemnestra has a husband, and then Zeus comes down and pretends to be a swan and rapes Clytemnestra. And she simultaneously gets pregnant with her husband's child and with Zeus's child.
Okay.
And so Leda and Castor are the twins, fraternal twins, but from different fathers. So they've named the males Castor, because Castor was a boy, and Leda, female. But those two clones come from the human chimera because she absorbed her fraternal male twin at birth. And so she had both female and male genetic lines. Fun fact about her, even though I can't find her fucking name and it's going to drive me insane. She was in prison for killing Siobhan's husband.
Oh my.
So when she was in prison, this doctor, who I'll get into the kind of heads of these cloning projects, he was doing research, genetic research on prisoners because they would get paid for that or be given, exchanges. And he kind of hit the jackpot by meeting this woman who had both male and female genetic lines. And so he took her DNA and that's how he created these two separate clone lines.
Okay.
So she's technically so the female clones call each other sestras. Which is Ukrainian for sister, because Helena is from the Ukraine and she has a very thick accent and she calls them her sestras. So they are sestras. So the original is their sestra mother, and then is the mother brother to the males. I know it's very confusing. And then the sestras meet the brothers at some point. They don't like each other. Spoiler alert. So there's a lot of battles back and forth.
Boys.
So the original, I don't want to get too much into details that don't matter. But basically, these scientists were looking at cloning essentially to try to help suss out genetic abnormalities. Okay. And they're like, well, if we can find someone and isolate their genetics and get rid of certain undesirable traits, eugenics, which do you want to speak about what eugenics are? Because that's a messy, messy road.
Not really.
I mean, can you just define what eugenics is for the audience, for the class?
Selecting out, basically, selecting away from, I guess, certain traits and selecting for. So we're talking about, blonde hair, blue eyed.
Yes. And that's the history of eugenics, is it did get very tied up with Nazis and, creating the superior race. Yep. That's not what eugenics was meant to be, but that's the title that's what it became.
Right.
Yes. And so eugenics plays a large part in this series because there is a group of folks. There's so many details. I'm forgetting stuff. What is the group called? There's essentially this fringe group of people who are really into body mod. And part of that is they want to be modifying their DNA. So they're doing things like implanting cameras in their eyeballs, doing a lot of things to become superior humans through body modification. But they are all falling under, they're called neo-evolutionists. That's what they were called. It's right there in the name, the next stage of evolution.
Right.
So the neo-evolutionists are actually a fringe group of this original genetic doctors who were working on this. So as I said, the genetic doctors split off. There's a whole murder mystery thing, all this other stuff. And then across this, we meet an evil clone, because there's got to be an evil clone.
There's always an evil clone. I mean, there's an evil twin if you have got this many of them.
So Rachel Duncan is the evil clone, and Rachel Duncan was cloned by these scientists to be their daughter because they couldn't have a child. So they originally were like, well, we're doing this whole project. Let's keep one for ourselves and raise her. And from all intents and purposes, what we can see is that she had quite a loving childhood originally, but then her mother was murdered. We don't know that she's murdered. We think it's just a lab accident that she dies, but we do come to find out later that she was murdered. Spoiler alert, she's not actually dead. But, and so then Aldous Leakey, who is another scientist, essentially adopts her and makes her more of a science project. There's no more nurturing or anything. And this happens when she's about 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she's had this lovely life up until then. And then after that, she learns that she has to have all of this testing all the time and that she's a clone. And she's the only self-aware clone
that knows
at this point. All the other clones kind of find out of each other essentially by happenstance. They just kind of run into each other.
So big question here.
Yes.
How did they...
I want all the questions.
How did they come into existence? Who birthed these people?
Good question. So they were finding women who were desperate to get pregnant and implanting the clones in them.
Okay.
Some of these women knew that they were carrying these children for other people. Others, like Allison's mom, just went for regular IVF and thought it was her own. Yeah. And thought it was her own, which there's this really funny scene where Allison is the traditional, stereotypical soccer mom, and her mom is very proper and very whatever. And Allison, at one point, she's over her mom and she wants to be a free spirit. And so she introduces her mom to Cosima. Now, Cosima is more like the cool girl. She's a white girl, but she's got dreads, glasses, very science geeky. She calls herself a science monkey. And Allison's mom meets her, and she's kind of like, "Ooh, I don't know who you are," and everything. And then Cosima leaves, and she's like, well, she can't be your genetic equal. That girl's mulatto. Which, for those of you who don't know what mulatto means, it means mixed race. And it's obviously because she has dreads. That's why she's saying this.
Now,
although I will say, Tatiana Maslany could probably pass as biracial. I would say.
Yeah, she's got an androgynous, not androgynous,
she does have an androgynous because we later meet a trans clone, Tony.
Yeah, she just has
she's a very neutral look, I think.
Yeah, look. And they're all of relatively the same age?
They're all exactly the same age.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're true clones. They're all the same age. They were all created and birthed at the same time. They all have the same birth date as far as I remember. I know they're all born within the same year. I know that for a fact, but now I'm second guessing because they don't really talk about that, but you do see pictures of their photo IDs lined up, and I can't remember if they were all the same age.
Okay.
So the Dyad Institute, those are the scientists who were more the private company running it. The Neolutionists were this fringe group who's into body modification. And then the Proletheans are people who are deeply religious. It's essentially a religious cult who have decided that all of the clones are evil except for the original. And so then they're trying to find which clone is the original. And they kidnap Helena and tell her that she's the original. So then Helena is instructed to kill the other clones.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, she doesn't do it. She meets her sestras and, they live happily ever after. But Helena's got a lot of trauma. They do a lot of flashbacks to her being raised in a convent with one particular nun who was very supportive of her, but then another nun who taught her how to self-flagellate. And then she sold off to this other guy who essentially raises her as like a pet, like keeps her in a cage. And Helena has the most trauma of them all. But somehow she still, even though she's essentially bred to be a killing machine, she just has this lovely way of just like someone will throw something her way and she'll just be like, okay, like let's deal with it. Like she's not really frazzled by much.
Okay.
So those are
I
the
guess
main...
when you've had a lot of shit, then the little stuff doesn't bother you too much.
Exactly. And like she makes some comment at some point, like one of the other clones is complaining about like a first world problem. And she's like, I remember when I was locked in a closet for 3 years. And they're just like, okay, Helena, thanks. Great. Wonderful. So those are the main clones, making sure I got... Oh, Crystal, you don't see a ton of her, but she's a personality. She's a nail tech. Okay. And she's a blonde girl and she's a very Barbie girl. But Crystal doesn't take shit. Okay. Crystal figures out about the Castor clones and shares that information with the other clones, because what we've come to find out, and this is like late in the series, the Castor clones, as part of their breeding, apparently something with their sperm causes whoever they've had sex with to become infertile.
Okay. What? These are like
exactly
killer sperm? Like we're going to...
So essentially, they don't really talk about how it came about, if it was done on purpose or if it was like a happy accident. But part of their military process is to essentially force sterilize women to prevent them from procreating. And they're using it kind of as like a military weapon. So weaponized infertility, I put that in the notes. So there was that. We do come to find out at some point that they're actually not all clones.
Huh.
Sarah and Helena are identical twins.
Oh.
So they are together, they are a clone of the original, but they are twins of each other. And they are mirror twins of each other. Okay. So do you know what a mirror twin is?
Yeah. So if you have certain things, it's going to be mirror image. So if I have a freckle here and my twin's here and they're going to have a freckle on that side, it's basically like that split. It can be split face to face. It can be split like different ways. But yeah. So I'm assuming it's split face to face, because at one point Helena gets shot and it should have been in the heart, but her heart is on the other side. So that's like situs inversus. That's a whole different
I know. They just call it mirror twins. I think at this point they've gone so much into the science and stuff.
Are backwards, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it works out in her favor because she doesn't die. Helena gets like shot, killed, stabbed like 60 fucking times, and she lives to see the end. So good for her. Helena is a champion of us all. Let's see, what else do I have here? I'm trying to think. I keep losing my notes. I have too many tabs open because I love this show so much. Okay, so we talked about, so far, I got my list. We talked about human chimera, mirror twins, gene therapy.
We talked a little bit about that on The Guy Who Wanted to Live Forever, but I don't remember. It's still like a very new thing, so I don't know much.
So in the course of this show, as I said, we come to find out that the Castor clones have neurological issues that are degenerative. And we find out that the Leda clones they describe it, but I didn't really get it. And I was like, it's not important, at least for the podcast, but they have some sort of gynecological cancer that is killing them. And the way they talk about it sounds a little bit like endometriosis, because it starts gynecologically, but then it spreads throughout your body, leads to like lung cancer, things like that. So something similar to that, where it's starting in one place and then metastasizing essentially other places. So as they're starting to do all this research, and Cosima's main goal as part of, the science monkey of the Ledas is, because she has a science background, she wants to isolate their entire genome so she can cure this disease that is killing them. And unfortunately, Cosima is the one who is the sickest. We find out at this point, several of the clones have died from this. And so at this point, Cosima knows she's dying essentially. So she's trying to isolate this genome so she can figure out what's going on, and then essentially treat herself and then treat her sestras. And then once the two worlds collide of the two clone groups, the males and the females, they essentially try to team up to find a cure for both sets of clones. And from what we can tell, when the show ends, all of the Castor clones die before they're able to save them. I
thought maybe like their super killer sperm could kill the gynecologic cancer. I mean, that would work. Like, shoot the sperm at the bed and stuff.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because although it gets very close, the Castor and the Leda clones actually never have sex. Okay. So, which is probably
their brother and sister.
Yeah, so it's probably for the best, but they never get to try that route of gene therapy. Do you know? So at another point in time, so as I said before when I started off, Sarah has a daughter, Kira,
right,
but all of the other clones are infertile.
Right.
And so they're not quite sure how she was able to conceive a child, carry a child to full term, given this genetic predisposition, and then have a child who's healthy. So at some point when they're searching for a genetic cure, they do take bone marrow from Kira to try to create a cure for the female clones. It does not work. It kind of slows the process of the disease, but it's not a full cure. So it's only just a short-term treatment. So can you speak a little bit about what a bone marrow transplant is, essentially?
So bone marrow are basically, so inside your bones, you think of they're like solid, but they're actually spongy inside. And in there is where all of the cells in your blood are made. So your red blood cells, your white blood cells, your platelets, a lot of your immune system is all created there. And so essentially you can take, basically they say it's kind of like a firecracker going off in your hip when they do a bone marrow biopsy, or they take bone marrow, but essentially they numb you up, they pull out a core of that, and then they use that to administer to the healthy cells or healthy making cells to somebody else who can now hopefully replace their bad cancer or whatever making cells with the good making cells. We have to be a match, and that's really, really hard. But I assume if you're a clone, everybody's a match, so that's good. But it's the daughter of the clone, so I'm not sure how close of a match. But it's very tricky to get all of those things to match up. It's not just blood type. There's a lot of markers for it.
Yeah. And so since we know that Sarah can have children, we then come to realize that also Helena can have children.
Okay.
And so the Proletheans figure this out and forcefully inseminate Helena. And she ends up carrying twins.
Okay.
So the twins thing is happening again. Later in the season, we come to meet, I'm going to blank on her name. I want to call her Elizabeth, but that's not her name. we meet the newest generation of clones, who this girl is 8 years old, but she looks identical to how all the clones looked when they were 8. And we do find out that they use the same genetic material. So she's essentially their baby sister, but also identical twin. And she is born. So now she's probably like the third offshoot of the clone. So obviously the more you clone a clone, the more genetic problems there are.
Can happen, right.
So they never say exactly what she has. She wears leg braces. It seems to me like it might be like a form of cerebral palsy, but she has some sort of difficulty. And at her young age of 8, they already see that she's dying from this gynecological issue. So clearly, as they're continuing to clone the line, it's making things worse, not better.
Right.
So there is, trying to hit all the high points. So later on, we find out Susan Duncan, that's Rachel's mother, did not die. She's just been in hiding for decades because she decided she wanted to save Rachel. She wanted to not do this cloning anymore. She wanted to treat them as people, and the scientific people and the government people didn't like that. So they tried to kill her. She was able to escape. She's been in hiding. We also find out that Susan's husband / Rachel's father has also been in hiding for the same reason. He doesn't know that his wife survived. They just know that they're both in hiding because they decided they didn't want to do this anymore. They wanted to help the clones. And so they don't have happy endings. They both end up dying.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to think of who else is going on here. Oh, so I mentioned briefly before. So there's Tony. Tony is technically a Lita clone, but he is transgender. So that brings in that question of like nature versus nurture.
Right.
We know that Cosima is a very open lesbian. We find out at some point that both Sarah and Allison have had some trysts with the same sex as well as the opposite sex. So it brings up that question about sexuality and sexual identity and what that has to do when essentially they all have the same genetic coding, but they're presenting very differently. So that's a really interesting piece. They don't talk a ton about Tony, but the few episodes he's in are very fascinating. We also meet Jennifer Fitzsimmons at one point. She's the only American clone that we know about. We find out later that there's many, but she dies early on from this disease. We meet Katja Obinger. She is the German clone. She gets killed by Helena early on, but she is also sick at that point and is dying. So a lot of these clones they weren't going to live long. Because of all this genetic stuff going on. And then we hear about several others. And then I just found it by the end of the entire series, they have identified by name 274 clones. But then Rachel, because she's the only self-aware clone, she hands over a list of over 500 clones across the globe. So it is international. And like all the we meet the Canadian / American clones, but we do find out that there are in every country. And then, as I said before, there's a lot of clone switching, which is fun times from episode to episode. Like there's this one point where Allison is running for like PTA president or some super mom thing. And she's actually in rehab for alcoholism. So one of the other clones pretends to be her. And Cosima pretends to be her and she's giving a speech. And she's like, as a lesbian supporter, and we're like, what? It's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
That's cute.
And then there's like cute little things like Allison also loves to do theater, so she's at one point she's doing Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's this whole thing where like she is playing Judas, and so she feels like she's a Judas because she's considering giving over her clone sestras to Rachel to protect her own children. So she has adopted children, and Rachel's threatening her adoptive children, so she's thinking about that. My favorite character of them all that's not a clone is Donnie, who is Allison's husband. He is just a ride or die sweet guy. Like he accidentally kills Aldous Leakey. He's looking out for all the sestras. He becomes like besties with Helena, and Helena ends up naming one of her twins after Donnie. So it's a very cute show, but it gives us, we kind of step back and there's a lot of ethical considerations. And the one main reason I wanted to talk about it is the big overarching question in this show: do we own our own genetics? Because they find out when they're testing the genome, they do finally isolate the entire genome, and it's been trademarked.
Oh, wow.
So each of them have their own individual trademark. So all 274 clones have been separately trademarked. So they do not own their own genetic material. And so it's like, how do we determine if we own our own genetic material, and who gets to say in that?
Right. Well, those laws haven't been invented yet. That's the thing. Technology and science can move faster than you can come up with the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even such as, using Ancestry and 23andMe and then them eventually subpoenaing these to solve crimes.
Yeah.
There's back and forth there on that. So it's quite interesting. See, I've always been like, I'm not committing any crimes. Who cares? But
Right.
I guess there's more to it.
And it's not about you committing crimes. It's about a family member committing crimes.
Yeah, well,
using that genetic DNA,
right.
That's how they're catching it.
Golden State Killer.
Yeah, and he was not the first. They've caught others, or he was the first, but they've caught others since then on the same idea. So that was the show, but after the show was released, it had such a critical reception. So many people loved it. They then developed a comic book series after it, which I also own.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
They have entire soundtracks, both scores and regular soundtracks, because they did have pretty good music in the episodes. They had an audio series, like audiobook series. Mm-hmm. They did a Japanese remake called Seven Genes, which looks at another line. There's been a spinoff in the US called Orphan Black Echoes, starring Kristen Ritter. Mm-hmm. Yes, Kristen Ritter. I haven't watched that one, but I've heard it's really good. It's because it's on like BBC and AMC, and I only have streaming and I don't have those, but I would watch it. But it's also gotten pretty good reviews on that, because I believe, and don't misquote me because I haven't watched it, I believe Kristen Ritter plays Kira in the future. Oh, so her now trying to like kind of figure out like sense. My mom was a clone. What does that mean for me? What does it mean for, my Sestra aunts? I can't even do that genealogy. One thing I wrote in my notes, and I don't remember why, but you can speak about it. Tell me about parabiosis.
I don't know.
We've talked about it before, actually.
Did we? I don't remember
we did.
This.
Parabiosis is it's usually done in a lab. It's when they sew two animals together and connect some of their internal systems.
Oh, yeah. Isn't there something with dogs that happened?
Mm-hmm. They've done it with dogs. They're doing it with mice, and it's typically to share a circulatory system. Yes. So looking at things that affect blood, different tissues, things like that. And it's a method that's been used for over 150 years to investigate aging, diabetes, energy imbalance, things like that. Yeah. So I don't remember when we talked about it, but I did mention it. I was like, when they sew the two animals together.
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember why.
Yeah. And I don't quite remember why it came up in this show, but it did come up in the sense when it was not just animals they were talking about. I don't remember them sewing two people together, but it was it was something about like
human centipede.
This is how human centipede. Well, no, because that's butt to mouth, and that's different. That's not cool. Not cool at all. So one of the links I put in the show note, in our show notes, is talking about some of the things that I said before. And there's a really good article called "The Everlasting Wonder of Orphan Black," and it talks about why the show captured so many people's attention. Why there's a clone club. I'm in the clone club. I love that, and why it was so intriguing. And it's because of so many of these ethical, philosophical ideas about what makes us who we are versus what makes someone else who they are.
Right.
What's the difference between a twin and a clone? What's
right.
It really does make you think about stuff. And then they do talk a lot about, like I said, that nature versus nurture, both as far as, trauma and behavior. Because as I said before, Helena's very aggressive, but also about sexuality and what that means for you. And, is it fluid and it just depends on what comes up, or is something more coded in the DNA, which, they never really answer that question. But it's just, there's so many intriguing things, plus just the phenomenal acting. It's a really great cast. So I think that was part of it. There's one scene, I'm always forgetting that this scene, but if you're going to watch one scene of the entire show, there is a scene that has now been dubbed the Clone Dance, where it is Tatiana Maslany playing 5 clones in one room, all dancing together to music. And they even have distinct dance styles.
That's
and
crazy.
It's just like, crazy.
How do you make your body right? Like,
yeah, It's so great.
That's
And they all
acting.
like fit the personality of the individual characters, but it just shows like it wasn't just like an acting job for her. Like she really explored who these individual clones
Right.
are as people, and we're really able to put that on screen. So then you could say that's this one being that one, or
Right.
that's not really that one. So it's a really, really cool concept, and I'm not sad that it ended because they did end the show well.
Okay.
It got the justice that it deserved in an ending. I just feel like there's so much more to explore, and I think that's why they did spin-offs and the comic books and all this other stuff.
Right, but it's always better too to have that complete ending. Some shows they keep trying to drag on and then it loses it. So it is nice when they kind of have that, okay, like we've tied it up.
And even when it does end, they leave it in a way that it could open the door for more, because basically, like I said, they find this list of the clones. So it's like, okay, well, who are all these other women? Like, where are they? What do their lives look like? How are they different? And they do come up with some sort of vaccine to essentially slow the process. So their goal at the end of the show is Cosima and her girlfriend, Delphine. I haven't talked at all about Delphine, but Delphine's a gorgeous French scientist who was a bad guy, but then turns good because she falls in love with Cosima. But they are essentially going across the world trying to immunize all the clones to save them from dying.
Oh,
and then continue the research. But there's really an interesting part of the show that I feel like is kind of blown off, but it really does speak to like this deeper level that I was talking about. When one clone meets another, to kind of suss out if they know that they're clones, they have a little riddle that they say to each other. And so the riddle starts off, just one, but I'm a few. And then there's a second line. The next one is, what are you? And the answer is supposed to be a clone. But if they don't know the riddle, they won't answer in that way. So then they kind of know to just like play it off like, oh, we look alike or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So there's actually 2 articles talking more about queer sexuality, genetic privacy, what they call the art of variation. So like saying like, if we're cloning, we're not varying the genetic line. So what is, how do we, if we want to explore cloning for positive reasons, how much of a clone do we want just versus someone who has similar traits? We're just looking at the dangers of that.
Right. Well, I mean, the more clones that exist, the higher likelihood of eventually sort of inbreeding with next generations.
Exactly.
That's like that sperm donor guy who had like a ton of kids, kind of a thing, and like
over 1,000 children.
That you didn't accidentally like one of your siblings or cousins or whatever, because there's such a percentage of the population.
Yeah. And then there's another article that I linked talking more about like the what if we were clones? What if you did find someone who looked exactly like you? What would that mean for your own identity, your own, how you feel about yourself? What would you want to explore? Like, oh, well, that person grew up richer than me. Like, what was that like, or just the general what ifs about our own choices. Like, what if I didn't go to college? What if I didn't get married? What if I moved to another country? Kind of like looking at this,
all
someone,
the trajectories, right?
Exactly. Like this person has the exact same DNA that I have, but they had a totally different life. Is that why we're different? Is it the nurture, or is it more than that?
That's the question that we've been asking for a very long time. Is it?
And I don't know if we'll ever get the answer, because we're never going to have a pure study that is really sussing out nurture.
Right.
Because if we do, then that's the point of trauma and emotional neglect. And so is that kind of the reverse of nurture? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it still has to do with how you've been incorporated with someone. So we talked about mirror twins. There'll be a thing on that. And like you were saying, it's usually more of the physical, like visual traits that are reversed. Like I've met mirror twins who one was right-handed, one was left-handed. So it can be that, but I don't think it's as common for it to be those internal organs.
Yeah.
But that can happen. We know that can happen.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of conflating like a couple different things just to make it sexy for the show. But I will say for the most part, the show is very accurate as far as talking about the genetics and how the research goes on and the science and things like that. And there's a wonderful, it'll be linked, the Orphan Black wiki that goes far more in depth than I did just now about every character, their entire
the episodes, they're on their romances, their friends, their family.
Think about the writers keeping all of this organized.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
all of these characters. I mean, like there's rarely a show that you need to keep that many individuals.
Yeah. And that's why this book really is great. If you've watched the show and love it, but can't keep it all organized, this is a really great book. It's The DNA of Orphan Black by Abby Bernstein. I like it because there's a lot of good visuals, like clips from the show, but there's also interviews with the actors talking about things. There's a whole interview with the actress who plays Kira, the child, and like how it was weird for her to be like, okay, Tatiana's playing my mommy now. Oh, wait, now she's playing one of the sisters, but I'm supposed to know that she's a clone, even though she looks exactly like my mom, and like all of this kind of stuff. They also do a lot of alluding to, because there's that genetic connection between Kira and Sarah, that part of that is why she can catch onto the clones. But also there's some other connection that she can feel the clones. So there's one episode where Helena's hurt and scared, and she's like, my stomach hurts. Like, it's Helena. Something's wrong. So it's like she has some sort of connection as well, which again, nature versus nurture. You know, some people are more empathic than others, but then we've also seen, identical twins living across the country and they know that one's in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
So like, what does that mean for that?
Right.
Being attuned to stuff. And then I linked an article just about the ethics, the biological and social considerations of human cloning in general. It doesn't specifically talk about Orphan Black, but it does talk about how this debate about human cloning has been going on for quite some time. We have done animal cloning, so there's definitely research out there about it. I think the big concern is, like we were talking about the resurgence of eugenics and what it means to be able to choose who or what is created from all of this.
I mean, really, that can go as something as accessible and simple as in vitro fertilization.
With
you can
reproductive
choose gender.
cloning.
You can choose to rule out certain genetic medical conditions, things like that. Right now, I know in the US, I don't think there's any programs that are letting you select out for like eye color and things like that. But I bet there's somewhere that you could pay enough money to do that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's science labs privately owned somewhere that would be able to do that. But, to talk about Dolly, I just found a little thing. She was cloned in July 1996, and she was the first mammal artificially cloned using an adult cell, so an adult sheep cell. And then later on, or earlier on, prior to that, frogs and other amphibians were artificially cloned, but she was the first mammal to be cloned.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember who it was, someone very rich and semi-famous, or maybe just very rich. She had cloned her dogs. So she had this one dog who she was obsessed with, and the dog was getting older. So she cloned her dog. And then when that dog died, she now had a puppy of the same dog, and I believe she cloned it 3 times. So she's had 3 generations of the same dog.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems weird.
I think it's weird too, because like all dogs are fun. Like, yes, your dog dies. But like, get a new dog.
Yeah. I don't know.
And so I think you would find the article about the biology, the science of genetic cloning really cool, because they even show like how certain cells are cloned and how they look compared to each other. And it's pretty cool science out there. I just feel like there's a lot of genetics, a lot of genetic concerns there.
Yeah, a lot of ethics, a lot of ethical
just
issues.
General genetic concerns. We know that just us normally moving, when we're born, there are genetic changes, whether it's environmental, things like that. So there's already genetic things happening without us doing a damn thing. So when we start meddling with things.
Well, that's, I think, why Dolly didn't live so long or wasn't very healthy, because there were issues.
How long did Dolly live? I don't really know much about Dolly other than she was a sheep. I just
remember it didn't turn out so well. Like, I that's what I remember being like, yeah. And I think she kind of looked kind of sickly.
I feel like she looked wonky. She didn't look like a legit sheep. Well, according to Wikipedia, Dolly was born on July 5th, 1996, and died on Valentine's Day, 2003.
All right. So what? Yeah. I don't know what the life expectancy.
I don't know what the lifespan
is, but 6 years.
Yeah, I would assume it's a little bit older than that. Yeah, she said she died at 6. She is on display at the National Museum of Scotland.
Okay.
And then she had 6 lambs: Bonnie, twins Sally and Rosie, and then triplets Lucy, Darcy, and Cotton.
So she was able to, have babies. That's interesting.
Well, it just says offspring, so I don't know if they were cloned from her or if she gave birth to them.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
And
thing.
cause of death is they euthanized her.
Oh.
So she didn't die naturally.
But she might have been like sick.
Oh, I'm sure she was. With all of that. And then she was named after Dolly Parton.
Oh, that's good, Dolly.
And it says Dolly is derived from a mammary gland cell, and we couldn't think of a more impressive pair of glands than Dolly Parton's. But you know what? Fun fact, you probably know this. Dolly actually does donate a lot of money towards science and research.
Oh, yeah.
So really I wonder if I don't think she had a hand in that, but I wonder if maybe that was part of the inspiration.
Yeah,
too.
The inspiration. Oh, yeah. That's cute.
So she was bred, as she did, so those lambs, she did give birth to them. At the age of 4, she developed arthritis, had difficulty walking, was treated with anti-inflammatories, and then she was euthanized because she had a progressive lung disease and severe arthritis. So a normal life expectancy is they said it was around 11 to 12 years, and she lived 6.5.
Okay, it's about half.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. So would you like to be a clone?
I don't think so. I don't think I'd want to be a
twin. Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to be a twin. I don't like myself that much.
I mean, having a built-in bestie would be like cool, you know,
but not all twins are besties.
Yeah. And then I guess there's also like that constant comparison and competition and whatever that could be, you know, a thing.
I mean, I do find the psychology of twins to be fascinating. We've talked about that before. And I do think there is something different about being a twin, even if you're just looking at one person. I think they are psychologically different than a single child. There's something about essentially sharing your entire existence with someone.
Right.
And then I'm always curious about the psychology of what happens when a twin dies. What happens to the other twin? You know, how do they survive? Because you've literally lost your other half.
Right. You're so in tune and so connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess, you know, oh well, I'm not a twin.
Yeah. Twins run in my family though, but
oh really?
Yes. But I am not one, so that's okay.
Well, you know.
And then
maybe we can clone you before you die so that we can have Nicole 2.0.
I have too many health problems to clone. No, you got to find a nice clean specimen if you're going to be doing that. I don't need to pass on any of this crap to anybody else.
Like the dog. We'll have like Nicole Jr.
Nicole Jr. Well, and I was just looking at like the notes that you put in or the title, and you put in biohacking, which actually wasn't part of this, but there's an entire podcast on biohacking that we could talk about. Maybe I'll cover it in a future episode because that was really fascinating too.
ChatGPT took your links and made that little introduction.
Okay. I mean, it's related. It just wasn't
like the main thing.
It wasn't the main concept of the show, but there is a really interesting, I think it's actually called Biohacked is the name of the podcast. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I think we had a good birthday episode with Nicole's obsessive knowledge of
And I didn't even drink my whole black drink, but it's delicious.
Your mouth is going to be all black.
It's not too bad.
Your tongue, just your tongue.
It's not too bad. Yeah.
All right. So thank you for listening to Medical Media Mixer.
The perfect cocktail. Cheers. Happy birthday to me. Yay. Happy birthday. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Medical Media Mixer podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps others find the show. Want to keep the conversation going? Follow us on social media. We're at Medical Media Mixer Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and on Pinterest, the Medical Media Mixer board.
If you'd like to support the show and help us grow, check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. And on Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. If you have a topic idea, feedback, or just want to say hi, send us an email at medicalmediamixer@gmail.com. You can also stream all of our episodes and find more info on our website, medicalmediamixer.podbean.com. We're available on all major podcast platforms, so no matter where you listen, we're there. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep mixing medicine and media.